Happy Monday, loves. How are we? How are we doing? I'm drinking my delicious oat latte, my latte of choice that I love so much, with a beautiful foam. Isn't it great? Feeling so good about this. How are we liking the orange nail polish? What do you guys think? Everybody here came from Instagram, so you guys know the saga with the nails. I was like obsessed with the long nails, and then I totally pivoted and was like, who has time for this? I took them off. And I told myself I would take 3 full months off of anything, which was really challenging just because I really wanted to see how my nails were actually going to do, you know, because they were like long when I first take the nail off, but then they needed to strengthen. Actually, my issue is not so much weak nails so much as it is dry nails, because they crack a lot. So I caved at the 2-month and like, I think it was a week point. Basically like October 10th, I think, was like my 3-month threshold. Anyways, I caved a week ago and got my nails done. And so this is where we're at. But I'm actually like feeling this. So I think my next thing I'm going to do is just, I'm going to alternate between like nail polish, no nail polish, just to give them kind of a break and let them heal. But yeah, you know, all things girly, right? I'm also wearing a ridiculous white blazer because it's kind of chilly. And I feel like I just want to give this blazer a last little run for its money before we move right into fall. It's been humid, and I find it really challenging to know what to wear when it's humid after Labor Day, essentially. Is a good barometer of how to put it, because you don't want to pull out like your summer clothes, but you're also sweating in like the transition stuff, or at least I am, because I overheat really, really quickly. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Obviously, as I'm filming this, it's not Monday morning, as much as I would love it to be. For me to be able to post this for you guys on Monday morning, I have to film it before. But it is the weekend, and we've been having a great weekend so far. Lots of things going on at the house for us. We just installed our fence. All summer we had no fence. You probably saw some of that saga on Instagram as well. So we're just kind of like finishing some details. And this makes me think a lot about the cycles of life, because we just had the full moon in Pisces last week, Monday. And, you know, that ends a cycle since the full moon in Virgo. And the full moon in Virgo was, I think I had quoted February 27th in my Instagram story last week. And so I think that's a really critical point, because full moon cycles or lunations are actually 6-month periods, loves. So right now at this stage of my life, I really like to look at the full cycle. I like to see, you know, where I've come from and what I've grown through and what I've gone through in order to see where I'm kind of at. And I think tracking with lunations is a really powerful way to do that. And so February wasn't so crazy for me, but what I'm really looking forward to seeing is the full moon in Taurus later this fall. It's going to take place middle of November, always through Scorpio season, that one. And it will take me back 6 months to the full moon in Scorpio, which was in Taurus season, which is when everything changed. When I was doing Star Sisters and Athena and I parted ways, and then I had to kind of figure things out and go out on my own. So all that to say that it's a really powerful time right now to look at your relationship with the last 6 months. And I hope I can guide you guys and support you guys just at looking at the lunations and cultivating a little bit of a relationship around that 6-month period. What I do is I actually have a journal over here where I track. It's a moleskin that my mom actually gifted to me because my mom and I are stationary addicts. And just this beautiful print on the front. And what I do is I'll trace, it's kind of like, this is about the only journaling that I have time for right now, but I'll date it. There's absolutely no organization to this whatsoever. I'll just date it. I like to have some highlighter action in there, and I'll just write the transits that were happening, but that's me because I'm getting into astrology, right? And then I'm also going to write like some things that came up around that lunation, you know, on Tuesday, April 20th, 1 week before the Scorpio full moon, news of Star Sisters breakup. By year's end, was announced, I cried a lot, more than expected. I wrote down my triggers, which were fear of abandonment, which I had also addressed on Instagram, and I can talk more about that as well, and having to support myself. When Athena had been a big support for myself, for me. Anyways, this is a whole other thing that I don't want to get into today. But if you guys have any questions about this, if you want to know more about this, we can do a full kind of experience on that. But this is sort of what I do. New moon in Taurus. And then, yeah, I just kind of speak to the details of the transits. This is a great way to see how you're feeling through the lunation. So, and the Pisces full moon last week was a great time to start journaling as well, or paying attention, because it's really a season opener for our dreams. And it's beautiful because I love, and I've spoken about this before, I love the balance, the yin and the yang between two zodiac signs. So between Virgo and Pisces, for instance. And now we are officially in Libra season. And this is really where we're going to get into the meat of what I want to talk to you guys about today, that I've been mulling over all last week. It was really top of mind, loves. And it's really this concept of our relationships. Hopefully as our group takes more and more shape and more form, we talk even more about our relationships. And of course, one thing that I've learned since my spiritual journey, basically, I would equate my spiritual journey to the destiny of my Sagittarius rising. But also, I would equate it to just this journey of self-awareness, ultimately, more than anything. And awareness really, for me, is tethered to so much of how I branded Stephanie Bordy around evoking our sense of confidence and our sense of joy. Because it's so important to me. When I look at my life prior, I was never depressed per se in the last chapter of my career and my life. But it was like, I really felt like I was living my life based on everybody else's expectations, and I kept missing the mark. And we're going to talk more and more about that for sure. But as we enter in this season of Libra, it's such a beautiful time. And Libra is, I'm very partial to that energy. I have Libra on my midheaven, which is the 12 p.m. Point in a birth chart. And Libra is an energy that really exists to pay homage to and to give space to the other. It has a really challenging time thinking of itself. But remember, I was talking to you guys a little bit about the yin and the yang. This loose hair is very annoying. The yin and the yang earlier. So the yang, if you will, to the yin of Libra is Aries. And Aries is so, for lack of a better word in this context, self-centered. And so where Aries is like me, Libra is like you. And so it takes a bit of both for both those signs to really feel complete and to feel whole. And so as we move through Libra season, we're going through an energy that is Venus ruled. Venus rules the sign of Libra. It's a beautiful placement. And right now, Venus in our sky, in our solar system, is actually through the constellation of Scorpio. And Venus doesn't function very well in Scorpio. It doesn't love to be there. Particularly because Scorpio is, to sum it up and not to spend this whole video talking about that, Scorpio is very obsessive, and I would sort of describe, and very focused. And I would describe Venus as an energy being so creative and so beautiful, really beautiful. And when I think of beauty, think of something that evokes an emotional reaction, that evokes an experience that allows us and invites us to move where we need to go. Scorpio is a fixed energy. It's a fixed sign. And so there's 3 modalities in astrology. You can be a cardinal sign, a fixed sign, or a mutable sign. Scorpio is a fixed sign, and it really anchors the energy in whatever it touches, essentially. So it's very obsessive, for lack of a better word. Now, Scorpios, and I know I'm getting a little bit in the rabbit hole here for you guys, so please ask me questions if you have any questions as you kind of pick this video apart. But Scorpio's opposing sign is Taurus, and Venus also rules Taurus. So Venus rules the zodiac signs, Taurus and Libra. It has a co-rulership, if you will. And Taurus is a fixed sign because oppositions work in the same modality. And so Taurus is different. It has its grips more in, I would say, its stubbornness, more so than the obsessiveness of Scorpio. And so, Venus is struggling right now in its placement. I will say, I always look at the glass half full, as you guys probably know by now, and I have my Venus natally in Scorpio. And it works very well for me. It's part of why I love relationships with people, why I connect with all of you guys who are here, why I take time to nourish my relationships online, for instance. So every planet that is, not in its best light, does have it like it's in its detriment or in fall, which is an explanation for when a planet doesn't feel so strong. So a planet is in detriment when it's opposing its domicile. Domicile would be Venus being in Taurus, Venus being in Libra. Detriment would be Venus being in Taurus, in Taurus or Aries, okay? And then we have when it's in fall. And fall is every planet gets a little extra zhush, if you will, when it is exalted. And so Venus is exalted in Pisces, actually. So when Venus moves through Pisces, it's exalted. If you have Venus in Pisces in your chart, it's exalted. It means that it's like, think of when you go to your best friend's house. You're like, oh, I feel like I'm at home here. It feels so good. Or if you're at your lover's house, before you're dating, before you're married, you're like, oh, I feel so good here, maybe, hopefully. And then Venus in Virgo, the opposing sign to Pisces, feels a little bit stuck. Doesn't have the freedom that it likes to have. It needs to go where inspiration calls it, okay? And so Venus is struggling a little bit right now, but Venus is making a lot of transits this week. It's been in the focus of the astrology of the moment. There is a lot of energy around Venus this week. So there's a lot of energy around relationships right now. And there's a lot of energy around Libra because we're in Libra season. And Mercury goes retrograde today officially. So it's been the last 10 days we've kind of been, it's not like Mercury's retrograde from one second to the next. There's like an easing into that energy, then it goes retrograde for 3 weeks, and there's an easing out. If I'm not mistaken, it is out of retrograde on the 18th of October, and then there's a 10-day, 2-week basically shadow period on the other side of the retrograde. So, really all things in, we're talking 3 weeks, we're talking almost like 7 weeks-ish, of a retrograde period. It's quite long. And so this is a really challenging time for communication, and Venus being in Scorpio and Mercury going retrograde in the zodiac sign of Libra, I really feel right now there is this tendency to obsess over certain things. And I really want to speak to that a little bit. I want to speak to obsessions. I want to speak to our shadow, and I want to speak to the feelings that come up with that right now. Because last week we had a transit on the 22nd of September. I believe that was Wednesday. I could be wrong though, but the full moon was on the 20th, so yeah, it was Wednesday. So on Wednesday we had this transit, and it was Mercury in the shadow period of its retrograde, squaring Pluto. And I have this book here that I adore. It's for advanced astrologers, I would say. It's by Robert Hand, who is really a legend, astrologically speaking. And this book is secondhand. I purchased it a few years ago, actually right before Quinn was born. Planets in transit. It's very heavy, physically, but also wordy, very wordy. And it describes every transit and what they mean. And sometimes I refer to it just to get a little bit either of an understanding of a transit or a little bit of a different perspective to maybe something that I will have seen online or learned in one of the courses that I'm doing. Robert's technique is, the first print of this book was many, many years ago. So it's quite, I would say, removed from the way to explain things in a relatable kind of a way. When was this first printed? Do you think I can find it? Just out of curiosity. 1976, revised in 2001. So it's a 70s print. It's a 70s thought process, if you will. But we have Mercury squaring to Pluto, and I wanted to read this to you guys. If you turn this energy inward onto yourself, you may achieve something of real value. This transit can bring to light hidden forces, psychological energies within you that could change your life. If you use this introspection positively, you can get in touch with the inner dimensions of your being and gain greater awareness and control over them. The problem with this transit is compulsive thinking and trying to convince others by your statements, otherwise known as manipulation, which is a characteristic of Scorpio. These characteristics can produce great unpleasantness, discomfort, and even give you a profound feeling of frustration. because you will probably not get your way the way that you had anticipated. And so I wanted to read you guys that excerpt speaking to Mercury square Pluto. Now, this is not speaking to Mercury in Libra squaring Pluto in Capricorn, which is what we're dealing with right now. This is just speaking to the planet Mercury when it squares a 90-degree angle with Pluto in the skies and what that can evoke behaviorally. And I've been thinking a lot about this, and really the catalyst for me kind of piecing and parsing all of this together was I was talking with a really good friend, Sadie, last week, who's a photographer, and she's a wedding photographer, and she does beautiful work if you're in Montreal. I shoot all my work with her. She and I met on my wedding day, and we became great friends, and it was one of those things where I really believe that destiny brought us together. And she had a wedding, and actually it was an engagement shoot, and there were all these challenges with that engagement shoot, and she was very triggered. And it was the Pisces full moon, and her midheaven's in Pisces. And I was like, oh my God, you're having such a full moon moment, Sadie. And so we were talking, and Sadie and I, ever since we've become friends, really and truly have really helped each other through our journey of self-awareness and growth and spiritual connection, I would say. And it's been super interesting because she's someone who often she'll call me and she'll say, I know I can have this conversation with you. I want you to know that it's going to be really lowbrow, but I know we're also very spiritual highbrow. And so there's kind of this like caveat to where we're maybe going to go to our darker sides and just allow for that, but not necessarily stay there. And so I think on one hand, part of what I want to share with you guys is the importance of having someone that you can, release some of those triggers and those shadows with in safety. And I really hope that as you get to know the folks in this community and we get to know one another, and hopefully even do like Zoom live calls at some point, as soon as this starts to get more tangible form, I would love for us all to have coffee together over Zoom. Let me know if that interests you guys at all. Hopefully we'll be able to support each other as well and just be this sort of like sounding board for some of these, let's just use the word uglier emotions, and heavier emotions and toxic emotions and emotions we feel guilty around. And so this one time was particularly intense where Sadie called me venting because, it was Pisces full moon vibes and she was really in it. And I thought to myself after the whole time, at the end, she was like, I'm sorry, I'm dragging on. And he's like, you need to get over this. And it's like, I'm just on this tangent and I'm really sorry. I need to get over it. Just needed someone in safety that I could vent to. And I thought, Sadie and I have been such good friends for the last 4 years, and we've been growing together. And really, this was the first time where I think I said to her, like, you know what, Sadie? It's okay. It's really okay to vent and to feel like shit and to talk shit about someone with someone else that you trust that's not going to go and muck that up and gossip about it, okay? With someone that you trust. But I think it's really important to not necessarily feel like we need to address what's bothering us and then snap our fingers and move on right away and just close the door and just go on with our day. I really want to bring to our attention the space for healing some of what's bothering us, and not just doing it for the sake of like, well, I put it out there and I vented and this is bothering me, and now I'm just gonna like meditate about it or do some breath work about it or vent about it, or go for a jog or journal about it, and it's gonna be over. It's gonna be done. Like, that's just it. There's so much online right now around reaching for our higher selves and around being better people. And for me, for instance, one of the things that I've really changed in my life in the last 4 years, and I would be really happy to talk to you guys about it if you have any questions within here. It's something that I for sure wasn't able to go as deep into on Instagram as I would have maybe definitely liked to, just because, boundaries, and because not wanting to offend people when people on social media are just consuming just to consume, so you don't really know who that's going to land with. But I had to let go of a lot of friendships, guys. I get a lot of very, very, friendships that were very, very close to me, as my transition happened. And in that letting go, of course, there are emotions where you feel triggered, and being triggered is like, it's not a fun place to be. You feel defensive when you're triggered, and you feel aggressive a little bit, and you want to justify, and you want to explain, and you want to be right ultimately. And really the pain point there is that you feel hurt, you know, and that sometimes we're hurt and there's not really a justification or an apology coming. And we're just supposed to kind of like make peace with this stuff and move on. And a lot of spirituality will focus on forgiveness. And listen, I've had some amazing yoga sessions, especially in my early days, for sure pre-Quinn, when I had more time on my side. Where I've gone to classes was pre-pandemic too. And I've had some really lovely experiences where I've done a lot of forgiveness to people who have really hurt me. And that's felt really, really, really good, you know, and I think that there's a lot of value in that. But I really want you guys today, and this week, as this coffee chat is the opener for your week. I really want you guys to think about how you're really processing those uglier emotions, those heavier emotions. Like, where are they going? A couple weeks ago, I wish I could remember the context, guys. So I have a lot of planets in Scorpio. And for any of you who are Scorpios here, for any of you who know Scorpios, maybe for any of you who are parents to Scorpio children, you will know that it is an energy that is Pluto ruled. You might not know that, but it's Pluto ruled and it's Mars ruled. And it's quite intense. It's intense, it's compulsive, it's obsessive, like I talked about before. It can be manipulative, it can be very dark. And it's really bogged down ultimately by the energy of other people's shit. And it's stuff we need to release. And it's really important to release stuff in life, but it's also really important. I think one of the overarching things I'm trying to evoke and share with you guys today is like, what if you're not ready to release? What if you're starting your journey of release and you think you've released something, but it keeps coming back up? How are you being patient and forgiving with yourself and allowing yourself to have these relationships and these friendships and these people where you can get kind of real and ugly with? Because as a Scorpio, I am someone who has those feelings. I'm very intense and very passionate and very motivated by what I guess you could say what I believe in. And when I think my feelings are justified. And it's a lot of growth work to understand the power that is those feelings and those thoughts that I have as well. Okay, thoughts and feelings, really intense with Scorpio stuff. And sometimes and jealousy, guys, jealousy is something else that comes out of being triggered. And these are things that I face a lot in terms of my own person. And that in some regards, I can really say I go back into situations and I don't feel triggered. I don't feel bothered. I don't feel annoyed. I don't feel sad. I don't feel hurt. I just feel neutral. Then I know I've fully healed. I know that I can close that door, you know? The complement energy or behavior or self-reflection is to being able to close the doors, really understanding your role fully as a participant in a relationship, in terms of what you brought energetically to that ugly emotion, if you will. It's not just always the other person. I'm having trouble with that. It's not always the other person. In fact, it isn't always the other person. It's both of you together. And so I just want to talk a lot, I guess, going into Libra season and going this Monday and this Mercury retrograde and this Libra energy through Mercury retrograde and this Pluto transit from last week and these Venus transits this week. We have Venus trining Neptune this week and we have Venus squaring Jupiter. Actually quite pleasant transits. The only ick is that Venus is in Scorpio. So there's still a lot of Scorpio energy even through these pleasant transits, and that zodiac element to that transit is what's really going to add another layer of information to how that transit is going to be felt and experienced. And Venus is moving up there through Scorpio. It's at 22 degrees by the end of the week of Scorpio, and there's 29 degrees to each zodiac sign. So it's almost into Sagittarius. But you know, I really want to invite you to look at your feelings in your relationships this week. And mostly I want to invite you to look at where you're allowing and with whom you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to not hide from those ugly emotions. But there's a fine line, okay? It's recognizing when those ugly emotions come up. It's feeling the safety and the security of someone else to support you through those ugly emotions. And it's also knowing when to, and that might be challenging through Venus and Scorpio actually, which really kind of like digs its claws in, but when to sort of take a break, release, move away, or at least set the intention of working through that ugly emotion in the following lunations, for instance, to bring this conversation full circle. Because we can use the power and the momentum of those lunations to create intentions and to celebrate a release or to intentionalize a release of an emotion. And like this, you're not just kind of moving through it like really briskly, you know, you're really cultivating a relationship with that emotion. And that's where authenticity and vulnerability and really commitment come in. And I think that's something that it doesn't happen overnight. And that's something that has really taken place for me over the last 4 years, where I've had to cut out so many relationships, which, guys, is so hard for me as someone who has Venus exactly conjunct my sun. So my sun is 14 degrees of Scorpio. Venus is 14 degrees of Scorpio in my chart. My sun and Venus are at the same, they're 2 and 1 of the same. Okay. And so when you add that layer in astrology together, what that means is that I actually have a Libra and Taurian essence to my sun. There's this flavoring about it. It's this sort of like this amalgamation that comes to, I have a stellium in Scorpio, which is 3 or more planets in the same zodiac sign. And it's kind of like we're a pack, like we all travel together. I have a lot of planets in Scorpio. My Mercury's in Scorpio, my Sun's in Scorpio, my Jupiter's in Scorpio. And I also have Saturn and Pluto in Libra. And Saturn and Pluto in Libra really also support that Venusian energy. And so that Venus conjunct the sun. So I feel this people pleaser situation of Libra and that Venus so strongly. And I really feel the need to almost like, to use a very Scorpio terminology, like pay a debt to others through my relationships, which means I never feel necessarily, or I have to work very tediously and consistently on it, my worth in an equation. And it's not easy. And what I've been focusing a lot lately when an ugly emotion comes up, like jealousy or just this trigger, which is jealousy, or, is just like, why is that there? What does that mean? Let's unpack this. Like, let's think about this and let's kind of make a plan together, like a commitment to myself to work through that. But let's also have space where we can have honest and real and safe conversations with people that we trust, who are going to kind of be an ear, like a sounding board, but aren't necessarily going to heighten or escalate that emotion. Just be a sounding board for it and hear it out. And really it's an art to make you feel seen in your ugly emotion, but not necessarily enthrall you in that emotion and make it get worse, and kind of rile you up, but just really have that boundary. It's like be the container. And I like to think that this community is a container for all of our emotions and support. That's really what I like to think. I like to think that myself as the facilitator is actually spiritually and emotionally evolved enough to be able to really hold that space, first and foremost, for all of you guys together. And so I really want you to think about this particularly, loves, as we move through Mercury retrograde in Libra. Because what Mercury, when it goes retrograde, does is it brings back the exes, okay? And so this isn't just ex-boyfriends, ex-lovers, ex-girlfriends, whatever, ex-lovers. It's also ex-relationships, ex-friendships. It's people coming out of the woodwork. And you're in Libra, it's like you're like, oh, more than ever, I would say. Maybe not more than every zodiac sign, as I feel like Pisces would be, Mercury going retrograde in Pisces might be similar to this too, but it can just feel like Mercury going retrograde in Libra, like you're thinking about almost like waxing nostalgically about what it could be. And then all of a sudden, when Mercury's going to station direct, which is when you'll see clearly all the things of this retrograde in Libra situation, that relationship's true colors will come out. And it's ultimately a retrograde for Mercury is about our growth. It's going to teach us lessons. It's going to tempt us with things where it's like, do we really want to go back there? Is it worth a round 2 or round 3? Or is it really just time to cut the cord, And what are the emotions? What are the feelings? What's the story that still needs to be released in that regard? And so I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts and feedback on this. And I ultimately, in this long-winded thing where I keep saying, I swear these chats are gonna be less than 30 minutes, and here we are. But I really just want to invite you to concretely, intentionally, tangibly hold space for feelings that are uncomfortable. And not just feel like it's like, oh, I'm experiencing this ugly thing, but spirituality and the online well-being, wellness, community is really suggesting that this is not a good feeling, that I need to release it, that I need to let go of it, that I can't stay there, so I'm done with it. But what if part of like the healing and all of that is about staying in that emotion and allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to be like, this is really uncomfortable. I've been hurt. I'm in pain. I'm sad. I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm enraged. I'm fed up. This isn't fair. All of the Scorpio ugly things, just allowing them to kind of be, just to be. It's okay to feel those feelings. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I really have. I've been thinking about this a lot for myself, and just like, where even if we're not in the spiritual realm of things or the well-being realm of things, sometimes we feel those ugly feelings and we don't really know what to do with them. So they just kind of like nilly-willy sit there. Let's be intentional about our messes and our challenging feelings and our challenging relationships. Because here's the thing. As much as we're going to dive more and more into boundaries in relationships, and we're going to talk about boundaries here, as I am a recovering people pleaser and I've been working on boundaries consistently for the last 4 years, and it's really uncomfortable all the time. The fact that we need to establish a boundary insinuates that relationships are really, really complicated to begin with. And so the other thing that's would be an extension of this video, I guess, too, is like, without all that ugliness and that messiness, how would we even be able to have appreciation for our growth in a relationship, and also for the good and the joy and the happy in a relationship? So there's lots to unpack here. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm imagining you guys have the gist of it, and I would love to hear your feedback on this and what this coffee chat has evoked or sparked or inspired within you as you start off this Monday Mercury retrograde experience. We will continue the chat as always in Discord. This goes in the coffee chats discussions thread. And if you have any feedback that you want to write, you can comment below on this post, of course. And I'll see you in the chat. You can also send me a DM right over here on Patreon, which is really fun. I hope you guys are loving Patreon. We're going on 2 weeks into this 11th House Cafe community, and I'm so, so, so grateful for all of you guys. Each and every one of your presence here has really touched me, and I can't even tell you guys enough how happy I am to be facilitating and hosting you through this community. For those of you, which are quite a lot, who have followed me since like eons ago, it feels at once like this is a long time coming, but this also feels like, for whatever the word finally is worth in the grand scheme of life, it's like we're finally here. I feel like this is so a space that I want to grow, and it doesn't feel, I don't have pressure on myself to grow it either. It feels so safe and organic and special. I feel really at home here. And I hope that as an extension of it feeling like home and me allowing myself and the community space and time to grow as it will, I hope you guys feel the same way. I'm, always open to ways that we can collaborate and work more together. Definitely want to make coffee, sort of like a staple in everything that we do here. Let's share our favorite coffees even. If you guys have, to that extension, if you guys have any thread ideas for the Discord community, which is the chat room community, for those of you who don't know, you just download the Discord app and you'll be automatically opted in to the 11th House Cafe server, and you'll see all the chats and everything. If you guys ever have ideas for chats that you want to create or that you would like me to create for you as conversations that you want to have, by all means, guys, like just go over and put it into the welcome feed. I think that's the best place to put it for now. And I can create it for you guys. So you are as much content creators in this community as I am. And your feedback, as I've said time and again, and I will continue to reiterate, is so critical to our fulfillment through this membership and through this space. I'm co-creating with you guys, and I'm so grateful for your presence. And I hope one day we can all get together and meet in person for sure. And think about that Zoom coffee chat together, because I would love, love, love to do that. And have a beautiful week. Have a beautiful week. If you have any questions about anything at all, you know I'm available in a multiple of ways. Feel free to reach out. Don't be shy. Have an amazing coffee today. I'm wishing you an amazing coffee. I listed a coffee gift card last week. There was 50 Canadian on it. So go and have a look and see if there's a balance and treat yourself to a coffee. When it runs out, and I'll redo another one. And that's it, loves. I hope you enjoyed this chat, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.